Pakistan stole an election, complete electoral chaos, and Waqas Ahmed is back. We've been covering this since the coup, right? Because it seems
Yeah,
like it's been years,
years
because it
al-
has been years.
2 years almost. It happened in April 2022, and
Yeah.
now we're nearing April 2024, so it's going to be
Oh,
2 years soon.
right. I guess it goes along with the Russia-Ukraine war. It had some
Yeah,
connections to that too. Okay, so I want to talk about the election. I want to talk about where things are going, but I actually think there are, because you and I have been covering this on this channel for these years, but I suspect a lot of the people coming to this video will be starting from scratch.
yeah,
So we should probably go back to um, the coup. So Imran Khan is in jail now. He was the prime minister of Pakistan. He was the prime minister of Pakistan. From my perspective, I always have this kind of Afghanistan centric view of the whole thing. And I think, a big crime that he committed against the United States was being the prime minister when the US was forced to withdraw from Afghanistan back in 2021. And
yeah.
I don't think they forgave him for that. But then he did a lot of different things. He was a political outsider, and he had he was neither from the established political parties, nor, I mean, they said that he was an army candidate, but um certainly not true anymore. So why don't we go, we have to go through the coup and we have to get to the present. So let's
Okay.
yeah, let me hand the floor to you now.
You might remember the first time we ever talked, we ever had a conversation on this show on your YouTube. Uh, the first question was this a coup?
Yes. Yeah, we had to we still had to answer that question.
Yeah,
It
but
seems like
now
such an absurd question now.
exactly, right. And there were people who would earnestly say at that time, no, it wasn't a coup. This happened on its own. Like
Yeah.
it was a natural phenomena that happened in Pakistan. So Imran Khan had his government starting in 2018, and in 2022, the military basically forced the opposition party together and toppled Imran Khan's government. There was a lot of discussion at that time if it was a military coup or not. Yesterday, the head of that coalition, the president of that party, PDM, that toppled Imran Khan's government, he said in a TV interview that they removed Imran Khan on the insistence of the then army chief, General Qamar Javed Bajwa. So that whole lie has like collapsed now. Even the ringleaders and the people who were participating in that thing have come forward and confessed. And we have seen so many indications since then. Since then, they tried to assassinate Imran Khan. Since then, they kidnapped.
Twice, right? They tried to assassinate him twice.
Yes, twice.
Yeah.
First time he got like 2 or 3 bullets in his leg. The second time he was saved because lots of people gathered on his car. And after that, thousands of his people have been arrested. There are women who have been jailed in Pakistan. Everything was done to his party, completely destroyed. His party was banned. And after doing all of these things for 2 years, 1 year late, according to the Pakistani constitution, the elections that were held on 8th February, they're being held 1 year late already.
Mhm.
So these elections were finally held after doing all of these things, after banning the party. Still, these people were the people of Pakistan, the people of PTI. They eventually went and won this election despite all of this.
Yeah, so just a couple of points that we may have gone over too quickly that I want to make sure people know. Like historically unprecedented things that happened in Pakistan over these 2 years. So when Imran Khan was overthrown, there were rallies demonstrations that were the biggest in Pakistan's history. And some were saying, I think at the time, that they were the biggest demonstrations like in history, or like,
Yeah,
but it was,
spontaneous, and none of them were. So there's this pattern, and whatever, all the people who want to analyze Pakistan or who want to understand what's really happening in Pakistan, there are certain ways to look at things. There is a generational demographic shift that has been happening, and we saw indications of this the first time when Imran Khan's government was toppled. There was a spontaneous protest throughout different cities in Pakistan, and those were massive.
yeah. And
Yeah.
including against the army, which was also like kind of an untouchable, like
Yeah.
nobody demonstrated against the army.
That day, the first day when those protests happened, when we did that show, if this is a coup, that show, um, that time it wasn't anti-army. It was just against like toppling of the popular government. They understood that there is a coup happening. But later, around like during the past 2 years, there have been so many anti-army demonstrations, and they're not anti-army. They're anti-army's interference in politics, basically.
Right.
So the army keeps interfering in politics, and people this time they're so well connected. Social media has taken the whole narrative from mainstream media, and nothing can be controlled anymore. So people know what's happening on the ground in Pakistan, and they feel so strongly about it. And for the first time, they're coming out and they're voting against the military. So military was unable to manage these elections. And this is the same military who, by the way, got 95% votes for General Musharraf, who
Right.
has been able to manage every election in Pakistan's history. This time, and it's not like this time they didn't have the will to stop the vote from happening properly. They tried their best to steal this election, and there are so many things that they did. For
Well,
example,
stealing the election, there's lots of ways to steal an election. So my sense of how they were stealing the election was by banning the party, jailing the leader, torturing the middle level leadership. That's also stealing the election, right?
yes,
You don't
it's all
necessarily
steps. Yeah.
you don't
So
necessarily have to fix the ballots to steal the election. You
yeah, so
can,
every move that you do chips away a certain percentage of votes. For
yes,
example,
yes. Yeah.
if you take away all the candidates and now they can't campaign for themselves, so they could have, by campaigning for themselves, they could have gotten like 15% more votes, and now the government has taken those 15% votes from them. And then by jailing some of the candidates, you take like 10% more votes. By removing the symbol, the PTI had a symbol, bat. The cricket bat was the PTI's electoral symbol. So in Pakistan, you have electoral symbols on ballot papers, because most people, like 40% of Pakistanis, cannot read or write. So you have these symbols, and symbols also signify a unified party. So all candidates from each party would have a specific symbol. Those symbols were taken away. So by taking away the symbol of PTI, they chipped away 10% more votes. So there was this chipping away of votes. And even on the night of elections, slowing down the polling, that would chip away like 5%. And then all of these things, they tried all of these tactics so that they could take away like the majority. Basically, when you're going to in an election, it's a competition with someone else, and they're going to get a certain number of votes and you're going to get a certain number of votes. Whoever gets more wins. So by taking away the margin, the Pakistani army hoped that the PMLN would win, and they were given all of the chances. Even the day before the elections, PMLN had their ad on the front page of all newspapers in Pakistan. PTI wasn't allowed to put ads anywhere. So this is how the elections were rigged. And then eventually, on the night of the election, they took away votes. Like they just forged these Form
Yes.
47 and sent
Yes,
them.
we have to talk about the Form 40. I've been studying your forms
Yeah.
because as someone who doesn't vote in these elections, it's a bit of a mystery, the bureaucracy. But okay, let's just go over though a couple of other things before we get to that. One is we call them the dynastic parties. So we have the party of Nawaz Sharif, that's the PMLN, which was supposed to win.
Yes.
Right. Then we have the Bhutto Zardari party. Which party is that? That's the
PPP.
PPP. Yeah. How did they do?
PPP has done really badly, actually. And PPP is now reduced to the province of Sindh.
Right. That's their home
Used
base.
to be a national party. It was created by Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, and it has a very long history going back to 1950s. There was a party infrastructure throughout whole Pakistan. But since Benazir's death, Zardari took over the party. The party has been over the years losing the
Yeah.
territory that it holds, and now it has been reduced to just Sindh. It is really sad. A lot of people say Zardari is a great politician, but if you've done this, if you've like sold all of your assets and used all of the political capital, then you're not a good politician. Anyway, these two were supposed to win the elections. The
And
military
have
backing
and
both
the,
of
and there's
parties.
still some kind of like coalition the military wants to create out of these.
Yes, this was supposed to happen. So these parties would win, and these would be able to form a coalition and have two-third majority in the assembly and rule for the next 5 years. But now those plans, because of the people of Pakistan who went out to vote and gave the middle finger to the military, they have destroyed all of those plans. Because despite, this is something weird that has happened. It's the thing that they did not calculate, by even by chipping away certain percentages, the maths was still off, because they thought that people won't come out, but people did come out and they voted for Imran Khan's party overwhelmingly. So now PTI has, despite all the rigging, it has such a huge majority. It has 101 seats, but it is supposed to have 180 seats. So there are some seats where there are discrepancies that they have stolen. So if PTI gets 180 seats, that's two-third majority. It would be able to legislate.
Untouchable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so now form for, let me tell you, you can be the professor and test me, because I have to, let's see how I understand this.
Mhm.
Form, so every party is allowed to go and observe the election
At each polling station.
at each polling station. Each polling station produces a form
At the end of the day, yes.
at the end of the day, counting all the votes.
Yes.
And everybody signs off on that. They say, okay, I saw that, I saw that, I saw that. Each party member.
Everyone is given a copy of it. So all of the polling agents present at that polling station, they're representative of their own parties. They are given the copy of Form 45s, and the presiding officer signs the Form 45, and everyone takes that signed copy home.
Then the Form 45s are sent to the riding, whatever that, what's it called?
RO office.
RO.
RO.
And then they consolidate the polling stations to determine who won overall in that seat.
On that seat, yeah. So each seat would have 200, 300 polling station, and Form 45 from each polling station would come to the RO office, and it would be tabulated.
So this is not a hard operation. You just add you just add what's in the things. There's not a lot of room for error. You're adding 200 numbers together. You could make a mistake here and there.
And this is how Pakistani TV channels also work. On the night of the elections, when Form 45s are done, Form 45 is public data. There are multiple copies. Each polling station, like even like a polling agent could give one copy to a TV channel, and TV channels take those copies, tabulate them from Form 45, and announce results before Election Communication Commission officially announces results, because the math is going to stand eventually. What they did was, the numbers that were on for Form 45, everyone knew that's the first document that is created. Everyone knew PTI people won. But when late at night at 2 a.m., 3, 4 a.m., Form 45, Form 47s were made at the RO office, they were changed completely. So the numbers were reversed. People who won seats according to Form 45 were made to lose their seats, and PMLN or PPP candidates or MQM candidates were given those seats. I have personally seen Form 45 for 41 constituencies. PTI claims it's around 45 constituencies, I think. And if you add them, you get like a lot of seats for PTI. They easily win.
So it's rather complicated to destroy all the Form 45s. It's one thing to mess up the aggregation,
Yeah.
but how can you actually destroy the Form 45s which were published as they went along?
Yes, and also because Form 45 would have 7, 8 copies, all of the polling agents would have the same. So you
Mm-hmm.
will have to destroy 7, 8 copies that people have. And you cannot forge Form 45s because they can be easily verified. If as a
Okay.
PTI polling agent, I have a Form 45, as a PPP polling agent would also have a Form 45. A PMLN agent would also have a form, the same one. So if I forge one, they can show theirs and say that mine is forged. But if
And
they
because
and then the rest of us can show and say, theirs is forged.
and
Uh,
each polling station doesn't know what's going on elsewhere. So there's
yes,
no, you don't necessarily know how to forge it
exactly.
unless you just make sure your team wins every single polling station, which
Yeah, so this is the problem with rigging an election. There are ways to rig an election. So sometimes some dictators outrightly rig them. They stuff ballots. They stop other people from going to the polling stations. Like
yeah,
how
violence. Yeah.
violence, yeah, like how in Egypt they might do that,
Yeah.
and how it has been done in Pakistan in the past. But there was some pressure on this government to have the conduct at some minimum level of freeness so that international observers can, put their stamp on it.
And they also, I think, tell me if I'm wrong, but their behavior, I think they thought they were going to win.
Yeah, because they had done all of the things to,
Yeah.
to rig it. So all of the pre-poll rigging that happened,
Yeah.
they had already done that.
Yeah. So that the only way that they would have behaved this way is if they thought they were gonna win. And then
Yeah.
so they, because there's this hasty attempt on the day of and the night of to try to change it, right?
So from what I hear, at around midnight,
Mm-hmm.
PTI had won 125 seats, and there was a sudden realization that all of the people rigging had been useless.
Mm-hmm.
So they sent military people to polling station, like people in uniform. There are videos of it. They come to polling stations at midnight to start reversing these results. So by the morning, they had managed to reduce PTI to 101 seats. Now, even 101 is a big number. Initially, I think their target was 30 seats. They wanted PTI limited to 30 seats and the rest of the parties to like have this equal share of seats. Nobody to have a two-third majority alone. But on the night off, they could only manage like around 25 seats to reverse them. And then the others that weren't announced reversed their results.
So 336 seats total,
266 seats.
266
Yes,
total.
166 seats that are contested on the election night.
Okay.
So the rest of the seats are given on a proportional basis,
Okay.
but like how many number of seats each party wins. Those are reserved seats. They're not
I
contested.
see. I see. They're not okay. So 266, and even after all the cheating,
They're
PTI
101 right now.
independents have 101.
Yeah.
So what a mess. How do they is their electoral is the election over from the point of view of the electoral authority? Are they saying it's done, or are they saying we're working out these discrepancies?
So the the seats that are still contested, PTI went to the High Courts. High Court said that PTI should go to Election Commission. So now cases have been filed at the Election Commission. Those cases would be heard. Maybe they'll make some tribunals. They will likely drag on these cases for the next 4 or 5 years, and then or
Oh,
maybe give a bad judgment in like 1 2 years, and then these cases will be appealed in High Court. So I don't think these contested seats the election commission would let them go to PTI easily, even though
so
PTI has won these. But election commission will eventually, like they have already started announcing winners. So 101 winners have been officially announced. But
so
yes,
so
go.
I know that Nawaz Sharif, who's been president I mean, Prime Minister of Pakistan in the past, he had a whole speech ready that he didn't get to give, apparently. Or he did make a speech. Did he make a?
He did make a, he had a proper victory speech, but he was going to give like it's people say that he was going to give a massive victory speech and like show off strength, but all that got ruined because at that night the results weren't clear. He came out and still gave a victory speech, but even though he has like 60 seats, you're like on the third you know that meme in which a person who's like uh opening a champagne bottle and celebrating and all doing all of these things, and then you zoom out and you see them standing at the third place.
Yes.
That's a
Yeah.
Noah Sharif did. He did a victory speech, but he has the lowest number of seats out of the three major parties.
So it's so they're gonna have to keep bending the rules because, like, in a parliamentary system, I assume that the party that gets the most seats gets to form the government.
Well, they're hoping that they form some loose coalition. The
With
problem
the
is,
minority.
yeah, they have to make some sort of government. They have to go to the IMF. They're out of money. They need to go into a 4-year IMF program this year, and they have to do it soon. Because if they miss this train, and they actually are thinking of doing it immediately as the government wants it, because if they miss this train by summer, they'll need a lot of money, and no one would be able to help them because everyone would be busy in like US elections and all of those things. So things will get really tough for them the longer they wait. And they want to give legitimacy to this government. They want to say that this is a democratically elected government that can go to the IMF. That's their short term, like immediate goal to secure that loan.
I found a map on Al Jazeera. What do you think of this? This is not right.
How many does this say?
It doesn't look like independent is what is what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
What kind of election map is this?
Others, but what's this one? PTI. Oh, I see. PTI affiliates. So they're differentiating between independent and PTI. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. I was confused. This is PMLN. Hey, come on, not a bad showing by
Yeah, but it's
PMLN.
a very bad showing if you consider that most of these seats are PTI seats that have been reversed on like one night. So if you take the Form 45 and you add them up, they have 17 seats left.
What about the
This is the
party?
election result that the ECP wants the rest of the world to believe.
Yes, that's why it's on Al Jazeera. Yeah, exactly.
The Al Jazeera is limited to what ECP says, right? Al
Yeah,
Jazeera
yeah, of course.
can only report on what the ECP says is the result. But if you add the Form 45s, and if someone does a piece adding the Form 45s and showing the real result, then PTI wins a lot more seats and PMLN gets a lot less.
So they're gonna form a coalition and then they're gonna go with their begging bowl to the IMF, and then the
Yeah.
IMF is gonna screw them because why wouldn't they?
And eventually give them a loan also, because why wouldn't they? At very bad terms and a very high interest rate.
Yeah, yeah, they're gonna absolutely. Oh my God. Okay, but then probably immediately after they sign on the dotted line, they'll fall apart again. The coalition
Yeah.
will fall apart again.
Who
But
knows? These are all fighting for their survival because there's a shift happening in Pakistan. They won't stand in front of that. They can't because it will destroy everything. The Pakistani people are very different from what these parties are have been used to since the 80s and the 90s.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, it's a young population and uh yeah. I mean, yeah, it's so interesting. You're right. Like when you compare it to what Musharraf was able to do, like what the army was able to um, cook up.
Yeah, they
Back
were
then.
able to achieve a lot of things, and that space that they had ideologically in Pakistan and even physically that is slowly eroding. You can
Yeah.
see things are not in their hands completely. And whoever is observing Pakistan at this point, if you want to place a bet on someone, right? If you want to bet on someone, who would you bet on? The people of Pakistan or the Pakistani military?
Mhm.
Pakistani people might seem like they're a bit behind, but they're catching up really fast.
Yeah.
Military won't be able to control them anymore.
Yeah. It's yeah, I've been, yeah, it's quite a achievement already, you know, to be able to I love to see it. I really didn't think, I also didn't think this was, I don't know what you thought going into the election day. I was just like, oh, it's gonna just be a cooked election and that's that. Like I didn't think, I thought they had succeeded in rigging the
Yeah, I
election.
thought that too. I thought like still a lot of people might show up, and if they show up, they would be able to turn the results because, uh, and this is actually what did happen. If a lot of people show up, you cannot manage the election day.
Hmm.
Then it becomes like harder for you to manage results. If the margins are like 4,000, 5,000,
Right.
6,000, you can manage those margins. But if the margins are 100,000,
Yeah.
50,000, then it becomes logistically impossible. Even if then you're going to like stamp ballots, and if you can stamp one fake ballot per second, and then you calculate
Yeah.
getting those seconds, it becomes logistical impossibility with those numbers
Yeah.
because you cannot have like 500 people working on managing an election. You cannot have too many witnesses of this crime. So
Yeah.
logistically, you have to have fewer witnesses. You can have assign only like some HR to this, and then you're limited by time on that night. So all you have to do is before the elections and on the election night, like lower the margin somewhat. Everything adds up, and your candidate wins. This can be destroyed by overwhelming like numbers of people coming to the polling
Yeah.
stations,
And it was. Seems like
and it
it
was.
was. Like when you said the soldiers went into the polling stations, the first thought I had was like, do they know what to do? Like, do you know you're dispatched to a polling station with orders to fix the election? Like, do you know what to stuff? Do you know, like, do you know the forms that have to be faked and what to write in them? I mean, that's
I
not
think
like
they might have. Pakistan Army has done it for so long. They might have some experts, but still, apparently you can see that they proved to be incompetent even here.
yeah.
And last 2 years trying to suppress suppress the Pakistani people, oppress them. Um, we have seen the Pakistani military's incompetence in these 2 years. So to be fascist, you still have to be competent.
Yeah, there's a certain bureaucracy. Yeah, and I mean that would have had to be done sooner. You can't improvise that on the same night of the election.
You can't be an incompetent fascist.
Yeah.
There will be too much chaos. You need to have some order, and this is the problem with Pakistan. The military is incompetent in everything, and it thinks it's the most competent organization.
So wow. So is does okay, so let's this is remarkable. It's a remarkable story, but I don't, is there any possibility of Imran Khan getting out of jail in the short term?
Well, he should be out of jail actually. Uh,
Okay, tell me.
because he he got bail in most of his cases, but now he's been sentenced, so he should go into appeals, and his appeals are already filed. So if he goes into appeals, the court should give him bails in all of these cases, so he could be
Okay,
out. And he could, I think the main reason for keeping him in right now was keeping him out of the elections. And
right.
now that the elections have happened, the main reason left that at this point for keeping him in is to stop him from protesting against the rigging in the elections. But eventually, it's his right to be out and defend himself and to be on bail till he's proven guilty. He should be able to stay out.
Oh yeah, that's what I know it's out of order, but we should probably talk about the main thing he's accused of, which is apparently basically defending himself from the coup, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So do you want to just recap that story, because they filed God knows how many cases against him.
Mhm.
Do you know the total number?
150, I think. It was
So
150 at last count.
I mean, that's obviously not like, that's not serious. That's when you're filing 150 cases against someone, you're basically trying to pile it on so thick that they can't
Yeah.
logistically deal with it. So
Yeah. He
um
gets bail in one case, and
yeah,
they file another case so that they can keep him in jail.
and he's having to physically travel and physically be in two places at once at some
Yeah.
points in these trials. So whatever, all of that. But then the
The
main issue is that he said that they overthrew him.
Yes, he said that the Pakistani military overthrew him with the backing of the US government. That is all he said. And he said that this based on this document. It's a cable written by the Pakistani ambassador to the US and he wrote this cable back to Pakistan saying that a US bureaucrat, US diplomat told me that if Imran Khan is removed, everything in Pakistan, everything that Pakistan has done will be forgiven and we'll be friends again. All you have to do is remove Imran Khan. Imran Khan gets hold of this cable and sees that his own military is after him and they're colluding with the Americans. And he tells this to everyone. This cable is called conspiracy theory for a long time. And then the intercept comes out. They share this cable. The whole world sees it, and it's true. And then the Pakistani government starts a case against them. The case is like he told about this cable to everyone. He leaked this cable, or he talked about it with people, and he put Pakistan's diplomatic relationship with America in jeopardy, while claiming initially that such a cable did not exist. So it's a very funny case that this is whole like what they've been doing. It's very contradictory
Yeah,
way they have dealt his cases.
we kind of went from no, no, it wasn't a coup to yeah. So what? We did a coup.
So
That kind of
yeah,
rhetorical change.
yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, I guess you'll have to come back as the story develops, because this is not over by any means, and we'll see where this goes.
Yeah, I think they'll just form the government for now. Interestingly, a lot of Congress members in the US and senators have
Mm-hmm.
said that these elections were not free and fair. All of the media all over the world has said that there have been clear discrepancies in this election. So this just means that there will be more chaos. A lot of people are saying, not a lot of, very few people who give apologetics for the Pakistani military, that Pakistan has been thrown into chaos because of the elections. But the truth is, Pakistan has been thrown into chaos because the
Because of the
military
coup.
wanted to manipulate those elections, not
Yeah.
because of the elections. There is a clear path to stability in Pakistan, and that is people went to vote and they gave their mandate to one party that won an overwhelming majority. If that party is allowed to form the government, Pakistan will see stability for the next 5 years. It's so
That's right.
simple.
That's right.
But there's clear refusal to understand this because the people who want to be powerful in Pakistan, people who own everything, people who have been historically running the show, they don't want power to go back to the people. Right now, Imran Khan is the face of a movement, and we have talked about this extensively in the first few shows, especially. This There's a demographic change that has happened in Pakistan, and these are the like people of Pakistan who oppose
Yeah.
old traditional politics, and this is the least violent and
Yeah.
most actually rational way that we demand revolution from people.
Yeah.
Whenever intellectuals or like whenever some like critics demand revolution from people, they say it should be done in a specific disciplined way. People should come out and vote out the crooks, vote out the bad
Yeah.
people, and install a better system from within the system. And this is what Pakistani people have done
That's right.
exactly by the book. They have
Yep.
went out and voted and they said that we want this. And now to if you deny people that, then how would we be able to complain later? And this is going to happen in 5 years down the line, 6 years, 10 years. The will of people will be done, and when it will be done, it could be done violently at that time.
Yeah.
So everyone who is involved in this should understand this is how history plays out.
And Imran Khan is not like, he was prime minister for a long time. He's not a force of great instability in the country.
No,
He's
he's
not
not.
gonna.
He hasn't asked his followers to do any kind of
Yeah,
instability. This is what it means. They have went out and vote because they believe in Pakistani constitution.
yeah,
Whatever rules this society has agreed to already, they have believed in them. They have followed those systems. They
yeah,
stood in that line, and
yeah,
that is meaningful.
yeah. Thanks a lot, man. That's
Thank you for having me.
we'll keep people informed about this at least. Even though yeah, the rigging continues.